Hello! In the last video, we looked at how to add style to our testimonial page, and everything looked very beautiful when we were done. And let us take a look at how it works. In this very lesson, we're going to add JavaScript function so that when the user clicks, each of the information attached to the user will display on the screen, just like what you can see right now. So let's dive into it and see how we can achieve all of this. To begin our program, we need to create a JavaScript, but before we do that, let's just check and make sure that our page is serving perfectly. Now to check, we can see that even when you click on each of the user, nothing is happening yet. So that's fine. We're going to achieve all of that with our JavaScript. Now to attach our external JavaScript file, we need to create a new file. I always like to store my files in the asset folder. Then I already created a folder again called JS folder. Then I'm just going to create a file inside the JS folder and just call it script.js. This is where we are going to save our JS file. So for this to reflect, we need to make sure that the HTML is aware of it. So we go to the bottom of our page just before the end of the body close tag, and we're just going to declare the script. Then we need to locate the file. Remember, it's in the asset folder. I'm just going to say asset folder, then /. You can see that VS Code is helping us with the file part. We just need to go to the JS folder. Then we can see our script.js file inside. And that means that we've linked our file. But again, to confirm that everything is intact, we can still run a check again and just say alert. So alert in JavaScript is what just allows us to run a code like a pop-up whenever the code runs. So I'm just going to say hello. So now let's try to check our code. If we refresh, you can see that we have the hello. So which means that JavaScript has now been integrated with the web page. So let's write the logic that is going to perform each time the user clicks any of this user. So I'm just going to delete this and let's start with our first line of code. The first thing we want to do is to target our first element on the page. Now we want to set our event on the user meta, which is the container that wrap all of this. So we want if user click on any part of this very element, then the content attached to it to show. How we can do that is we'll go back to our JavaScript. Then we are just going to say const, which is constant. We're declaring our variable. We're just going to say testimonial. Then we're just going to say equals to document query selector all. Then we just want to target the class of user meta. So once we've achieved this, the next thing we will need to do is to just leave a comment of the kind of things we want to do on our page. So let's leave a comment and just say we need to use the ForEach loop. So just going to say use the, let's say ForEach loop to add open class. Okay, another thing we need to do again is to use a for loop to remove the class open from each of the div whenever the user click another div. Use the, I think we should remove this here as well, to remove the open class from the profile div. Okay, so these are the two things we need to do. We need to add the open class, then we need to remove the open class, and let's see how that works. So what we need to do here is to write our ForEach loop. We're just going to say testimonial, then ForEach loop. Now for each loop, we want to store each of the item in our item. Then we declare another function. So on each of the function, we're just going to run addEventListener. So to run our addEventListener, which we can just say item, then addEventListener. We want click. So we need to store the event in the E. Then let's declare another function. So to make our code cleaner, let's store this event in a variable. So we can just say const. Then we want element equals to, then we assign it the event. But this time around, we just say event.target. So whatever the actual element is what we want. So once we have this, we can even save and just say console.log. Let's try to see the value that we are getting each time the user is clicking. So we can just say elements. Now if we save it and just go to run it and check our browser whenever we inspect, if we come to the console and each time we click, you can see that whatever you click, you see the value. You can even see the image as well, even when you click each of them. So which means our target is working. So each time the user click, we get to see the value. And that works for us. So we can just close this and we can comment this for now. We need to be able to remove the open class each time we run this event. And what we can do is to run a for loop. We're just going to say for loop. This isn't complicated at all. We're just saying let index, we're declaring a variable, index equals to 0. Now an array, the array is going to be these, our testimonial. Okay, so whatever we are counting all the elements that is here, then want to apply this very command. So I think we can just get rid of this, get rid of all of this, and just make it a one-liner. So remember what we are targeting currently is the user meta, but we want to remove the open class in the parent div. So we can say that in JavaScript. So we can just say period.parent element, then we say class list. So we want to remove the class list of open. We just need to say open. So if we run this code, if we run it and just click on anything, you can see that the open class is gone. So now that we can remove the open class, the next thing we want to do is to be able to add it each time we click a particular element. So let's see how that works. I'm just going to use if statement to check if we are able to click on any of these elements, let something happen. We're going to say if, this is how to declare the if statement. Then we're going to have our condition in here. So we want to just say this element, if element class list equals to user meta, then we want to run this code. So it means that whenever we click on this div, whenever we click this container, something should happen. And let's see how that is going to work. Let's go back to our code and navigate to the JS. So let's write the logic here. So what we want to do is to say element. Remember, this is the target. We store the target here. So we're just going to say element dot then parent element dot class list. We want to add the class of open. If we save it and let's check if what we've done makes sense. So if we click, you can see that it is making sense. But if we click any other part, nothing is happening. So let's write other condition as well that we check whether we click the name or we click the image or even the sales. Let's check it out. So which means we need to just add else if, continue the if statement. We're just going to say, so let's add our new condition. Then we want to check two conditions here. We want to check if we're clicking on the H3 or if we're clicking on the P. To do that, we are going to come back to our JavaScript and then say element then dot tag name. If element dot tag name is equals to h3, always remember to put this in capital letter. Then we say, or if element tag name is tag, no, this should be tag name, not target. Tag name equals to p, then this very code should run. Is this something similar to what we have at the top? But remember, the parent of this tag is the div. Now the parent of this div is this very user meta. Then the parent of this user meta is this very open profile. So we have like 3 levels of parents. And let's see how that works. So just know that what we need to do here is to duplicate this parent in 3 places. We'll have another one. So this represents the explanation I just gave. And if we save it, and if we check it right now, if you click on the name, it should show. And if we also click on the title, it should show as well. So it's making it interactive in a way that is not just when you click the image. The next that we want to check is if we click on the image or we click on the container wrapping these 2 elements. Let's see what I mean. If you click on this image or you click on this div, so let's write the condition that can undo that. So we can just still say else if, then we declare the condition. Then we can say if element dot tag name is equals to image, or if the element dot children. So what we are just saying there is if this element child is equals to div, which is in position of number 2, you have the image as the first child and the div as the second child. So we want something to happen when that event occurs. So what we can do here is to copy this same thing. Also, remember the same principle. There are 2 levels to the actual parent. So we're going to have repetition of 2 parents here. Just going to put a period, then I think we should be good. So if you click on the image, then you should have response. And if you click also on the div, you should have response. Now everything seems to be fine on the JavaScript, but something is really missing on our CSS. Anytime you click on the element, it's displaying relative to the container of the profile. How about we tie the relative to the div that serves as the wrapper? Now let's see what we mean. Each time it is relative to this document, but remember when you stack like 3 of them together, it's going to shift them down. How about we tie the relative to this div that wrap the entire document instead of tying it to the profile that wrap just one profile of the user. So what we can do here is just say class. When we say class, we can just say testimonial wrapper. Okay, so this is what we are going to reference in our code. Let's go back to the CSS and just look for where we have the CSS. I'm looking for it, and here we have it. Then we can just change this to wrapper. I think this should fix the problem. If we come and just click on any of them, you can see that the content maintain the wrapper div instead of the individual wrapper. And that gives us the functionality that we want. Even if we check smaller screens, If we check smaller screens, our code still works the way we expect. You can see our code still works the way we expect. If we check it on bigger screen, it still works. And if we remove the screen sizes, it still works perfectly. But one more thing we need to add to make it more unique is, if you see when we hover on the name, which is the H3 tag, it's showing the cursor to copy. How about we change the cursor to pointer? We can do that with our CSS. We just come to where we have the H3 on line 35. Then we can just declare new cursor. We can say cursor. Then we want pointer. That should fix it. And each time you hover on the name, you can see that you have a pointer that shows that user can actually click on the element. And that's how we wrap it up for this lesson. If you like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on all our social media handles. Until next time, I'll see you in the next one.